So like with most of my car repair stories lately, this one started out with a road trip. My wife and her daughter going out to Arizona from Texas, visit some family. And on day two out in New Mexico, they went to gas up and they came back out and all of a sudden the air conditioner wasn't working. And we tried all the usual stuff over the phone. I was here at home. Yeah, we tried the fuses and some solenoids. She even took it to a quick oil change place and they checked the pressures and pressures looked good, and it was starting to sound like there was a problem with the compressor or the clutch. Unfortunately, they had a big road trip out there in the heat, 90 some degrees, hitting almost 100 on a couple of days in early June. When I got back, I troubleshot everything, and turns out that the issue was the compressor clutch. So this video here is about me changing the compressor out. I went ahead and decided to do the entire thing, and also the dryer, and got it recharged myself.
Alright, so first thing to check is the fuses. In this case here, you look at the bottom panel, get all these directions. AC fuses in there. There's also one inside in the cab underneath. And then we have the AC solenoid right here. And this is a B115. And this one here is for the horn. And you can trade these out and swap them and see if they work. The next thing to try is you can directly jumper it. If all of the pressure sensors are good, all the fuses are good, solenoids are good, you can test it out by jumping it. So when you take this off, these two here are the I think 30 and 87 points. You can look up the contact points on these solenoids. This one here is hot. I measured it previously with an ammeter. If you ground that to the contact, it'll have 12 volts. So we can put one right there, and then when we connect the other end, we should hear the solenoid click. And there's no clicking, which indicates the clutch is bad. And just to test this theory, I'll demonstrate on the horn, and we'll press down this, we'll hear the horn honk. That. So we know those are the contact points, the same way it works on there, and that should operate the compressor. And if the compressor's not clicking, then we're more than likely to have an open circuit. You can also use an ohm meter to test these circuits, make sure, and I did that previously and I found out that there is no continuity, so more than likely we have an open connection on the clutch. And just to be safe, make sure you add chocks to the wheels, back and front on the non-lifted side. Make sure you put the jack on the proper mount points. The compressor itself should be pretty easy to change. There's these bolts right there. There's some more on the top, and then there's one wire plug. Alright, so then we hook up the manifold gauges, make sure that everything is closed, and these are slip-ons. Pull them back and push them on. There we go. And then once that's on, you open it up, and that will depress the one-way valve in there. And we do the same on the blue side. And then we can read the gauges, and hopefully that comes through. And there's about 110 pounds. It's even on both sides. Next, we'll start the car up and see if there's any change. And with the engine running, there's no change in the gauges. And of course there wouldn't be, because the compressor is not turning. You can look down there and you can kind of see where it's not turning. So this is the rebuilt compressor from R&R. It comes with oil already in there. Don't need to add any, but I might end up adding some anyways. Get the UV fluid. Comes with new O-rings, the expansion valve, a dryer. I'll be replacing that. I will not be replacing the expansion valve because that's deep inside the dash. This here has a new clutch, and you won't be able to tell from the coming up videos inside the car, but there's 4 mounting bolts, 2 here, and then 2 on the back side right there, and then these are the
right now they're caps. This is where the hoses are going to connect. So I'm going to go underneath there and take out all of that. And yeah, there's one plug right there. So basically 4 bolts, 2 hoses, and a plug. And let me dive underneath the car and remove the old one. And the tools we used were a 14 wrench in order to get the tensioner pulley loosened, a couple of drives, and a 12 millimeter socket, long and short nosed, and a 10 millimeter. The 10 millimeter was for the hose bolts, and the 12s were for the compressor bolts. All right, so first we have to remove the belt. There's the tensioner. It uses a 14, and you can't really get a socket on it because there's not enough room right there. So we kind of rig this up like this with another wrench. Then we can loosen that up, and we can take the belt off. There we go. First, we're going to use a 10 millimeter and loosen the hose connections. There's one here, and the other one is way up here. Yeah, everything's kind of blurred. I don't have a decent camera for this. I'm not a professional YouTube mechanic or anything, but. And next, we're going to use a 12 millimeter to remove the 4 mounting bolts. The other one is way up there. Required a little stubby. I think you can see it. That's one of the top ones, passenger side, on my driver's side. Then you have the upper one on the passenger side. You definitely have to remove the hoses in order to get to it. And then we have the last bolt right here. Also, I could not get the connector unplugged from the wiring harness, and so what I ended up doing was I cut it off the compressor and left this on the car. Then I removed the compressor, and then I was able to turn it around and see exactly how it comes apart, and I was finally able to get it apart. But yeah, I ended up having to break this here off. It was just stuck together. I couldn't do anything. So yeah, if you have to do something like that, make sure you cut it off from the compressor side and you don't cut your wiring harness. All right, and we have both the pressure lines loose and the electrical connector. All right, the next thing I'm going to replace is a dryer. You can kind of see down there, it's out of focus, but it's that cylindrical tube in front of the radiator. All right, so from underneath, there's one bolt that hooks the lines up to the dryer. Need to remove that. It's a 10 millimeter. And then from the top, there's another 10 millimeter that clamps the cylinder on there. And then we're going to replace the O-rings. The old ones are at the bottom, new ones at the top. They'll probably get the same size. They give you a nice variety of O-rings with the compressor. So I drained the oil out, and I'm going to replace it with some Pack 46 with the UV dye, so it'll be easier to troubleshoot. And this here calls for RFL 100, but from everything I looked at, the Mazda wants a Pack 46. I'm not sure what that 100 is, so I'll make sure I put the correct lube in there. All right, threads are cleaned. I took a wire brush to them, got all the rust off of them, and then I added blue Loctite, and they're ready to go back in. And notice that there's 3 long ones and 1 short one, and it's pretty obvious on the pump where they go. And the same thing with the 2 bolts that hold the lines on. They're also cleaned. One was really rusty. Cleaned them with the wire brush and added blue Loctite. Got the dryer replaced. It came with a stud that went in there. I used the factory bolt, and it was all a 10 millimeter socket and a wrench up front. I did also replace the green O-rings that go up in there. There's a couple ones, and I used the thicker version. And while I was at it, I went ahead and replaced the belt. This was the old one, and it started looking a little bit dry up front, and got a brand new one. This used to be called a gator belt,
and kind of has a checkered pattern instead of just simple grooves.
And I won't bore you with the details on reinstalling it. It's 4 bolts, 2 hose connections, and a plug. Just the opposite of removing everything.
All right, so this here might take 2 hands. Had the tensioner adjusted. I was able to clamp it underneath the hose clamp here for one of the intercooler turbochargers. Most cars aren't going to have that, so you might have someone doing that. The other ratchet was on the crank bolt with a 21 millimeter, and so I was able to pry the last couple inches on there with the ratchet and turning the engine over, and got the belt to come over this edge of the bottom pulley. All right, so I got my vacuum system set up. Pulling a pretty decent vacuum. It's one there, and I've got it hooked up to the manifold gauge. And I'm not pulling quite 30, but I am pulling vacuum. So I'm gonna let this go for about an hour or so, and let it clean the system out. And it's been pulling a steady 92.5 kPa, and what is that? About 27.5 inches of mercury. And it has not been dropping, so I think the system is sealed pretty well. So now when you jumper this, you can kind of see a little spark, and you can also hear the clutching gauge. And hopefully that should fix the problem. Now it's just a matter of recharging everything. For the amount of Freon, there's a sticker up there, and you can see it says half a kilogram or 1.1 pounds. So once we evacuate the whole system, vacuum it, we're going to get a scale, and we're going to measure how much we actually put into the system. We're using 134A, which is what it calls for. And this can has 12 ounces and 340 kilograms. We're going to go metric, so it's probably going to take about 1.5 cans of this. And we also have a scale set up so that we make sure that we know exactly how much refrigerant leaves the can. We'll measure it beforehand and afterwards. Next thing is we're going to open a can. All of this here is secure. And what this is going to do is drive a needle into the can and puncture it. All right. I believe that should be open. Then we're going to purge the hose. There's a little button up here with the valve. And we're going to open this. Alright, so I just found out that this does not work. The old puncture style with a needle in it. EPA has come up with some new cans, and the old ones, this had a flat metal cap and you would puncture, but these are resealable, and you need a different type of tap. So I had to run down to the hardware store real quick, and I bought one of these, and this pushes down on it. It's a Schrader valve type of thing, and then you can open it up. And just had to buy this adapter. It cost about $8 or something like that. So let me start over again with one of these. Alright, so use this, screw this all the way out, put this here on the can, and then what I found out that this is different. This is not a regular 1/4 inch SAE fitting. Luckily, I did have an adapter. So one adapter after another. Screw this on, and then we should finally be able to get the hose hooked up. And now at this point we should be able to open this up and then get some pressure. Then on the hose, we're going to purge this. So remove this cap. And so we have pressure now, which earlier we didn't. High pressure is closed. This is closed. This is all the way open. And now let's open this. And yeah, we can see the pressure finally going up. So we have some initial pressure. Let's see if we can start the motor up, and if there's enough pressure that the switches will trigger, the pressure switches, and we can charge it up. And we can see down there The compressor is turning, so we had enough pressure to engage the clutch. And we're starting to see a difference in the gauges. This one's going down, that one's going up. And checking the pressure, how much weight we're putting in there. Alright, so we start off with about 640 grams, and just now we're going to measure, we're at 292. So we put in about 348 grams, and the can says it has 340, so we're pretty close to the first can being empty. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to close this here. And then we're going to take this off the can and screw this. And so an empty can weighs 181 or 180. Alright, so full can is 425. And the one we just put in is 180. And so we have 5, 4, yeah, so we added 245 grams in there so far. So we're going to have to do the same thing. We need, we're supposed to have 500 minus 245, and that's going to be 5, 6, we need to add 265 into the next one. Alright, so this can weighs 535, and we need to add 265 to it. So the can should end up weighing 270 by the time we're done. So I'm going to go open the yellow valve again. Well, after shaking the can up, we went a little bit over the 270. We're down at 216. So that's about 50 grams too much, but 50 grams out of 500, that's what, 10%? It shouldn't be too much, might be slightly overcharged, but we'll find out. Center vents are reading 65. Feels pretty good. And it is currently 95 degrees out, and 95 we should be getting between 45 and 55 and 275, 300. It's around that. And we have 55, and on this we are a little bit low, it looks like about 250. Not quite as high, but looks okay. Compressor kicks off and it goes back up to about 41, and it goes up to 44, so it's cycling pretty nice. Alright, hitting the 40s. 40.8 was the lowest.
I hope this video was interesting and of benefit. Like and subscribe if it was. Thank you.